to the Afrofood Diary. My name is Geraldine, and if it's your first time coming across my video, you are highly welcome. Let me speak for you. I just finished talking about something I'm so passionate about, and that is what is giving me this positive energy you see all around me. Thank you so much for clicking on the video as well. By the time you are watching this, you must have seen the first video, so you will relate to what I'm talking about. So guys, in today's video, let me waste our time. We're going to be making something new, okay? Something that will blow your mind. We're going to be making carrot jollof rice. Asemgeni. Carrot jollof rice. This jollof rice is one that will give you a small break. You know, I know that our tomato jollof rice is still the best, but this one will offer you a small break. If for any reason you are tired of tomatoes, or you just want to give your taste buds something different to work with this time, okay? So it's going to be yummy, it's going to be spicy, it's going to be colorful, it's going to be delicious. Guys, sit back as we make carrot jollof rice and grilled oxtail. Did I forget that part? We're going to be grilling some oxtail to pair with this carrot jollof rice, okay? It's going to be yummy. Sit back and don't go anywhere. So the first thing we need for this recipe is parboiled rice. This is like our regular Niger rice over here. Then I have the stock I cooked out of the oxtail. I just made a huge batch of these, so I used very simple ingredients like habanero pepper, salt, seasoning cubes and onions, then rosemary. I'll be using 6 sizable carrots for about 3 cups of rice. I have a big tatashe and then 2 medium-sized purple onions. I have that yellow capsicum for garnishing. I have this size, a huge thumb of fresh ginger. I have some spring onions, and I have over there my crayfish alternative. You must have seen that video. And then I have habanero pepper and some garlic in there. I'll be using some light olive oil, but you can use any vegetable oil of your choice. Over here, I've already measured out my spices. I have in there half a teaspoon of curry powder, 1/4 teaspoon of turmeric, a teaspoon of paprika powder, and a teaspoon of all-purpose seasoning. Then instead of seasoning cubes, I'm going to be using this beef stock and then salt. Let's start cooking. The next step is to cut the carrots into very tiny pieces. I'm going to be blending mine without steaming. I once made a carrot stew. You can check that out if you really want to see how to make stew with carrots, okay? And in that video, I steamed before blending. But in this particular one, I want to blend it raw so that during the frying process, it will just get cooked. You know, we're making it into a jollof rice instead. So that's about the size I cut it, and then I went ahead to cut the tatashe, the sweet red pepper. Yeah, so this is what will add a little bit more color to the rice. You know, we're not using tomatoes, and it wouldn't be that red like when you make tomato jollof rice. And of course, I cut up the ginger and then a little bit of the onions I showed us. I'm going to blend all that together into a puree. Over here quickly, I'm going to use this fork to kind of scoop off the fat on the surface of the stock I cooked out from the oxtail. Okay, I scoop this away because it's just a lot of oil. You can decide to leave yours and use it to make your meal, but I wouldn't want it to be so oily. So meanwhile, I'm not throwing it away, I'm keeping it aside for later use. I'll show you. Then in this clean sizable pot, I poured in about a full cooking spoon of the olive oil. This is what I'll be using to make the food. I wouldn't want it to be so oily like I told us. Yeah, so but you can add more if you want to. Next, I'll be sauteing the onions. I'm using the purple onions I showed us, and then the stronger part of the spring onions. Yes, I'm going to saute it alongside the purple onions just for that extra flavor, while saving the leafy part, the very green part of the spring onions, for garnishing later on. So I'm going to be sauteing this for about a minute on a not so high heat, and then I'm going to toss in the habanero pepper and the garlic blend. Yeah, I'll mix that in for, let's say, 30 seconds before we proceed. So next I will pour in the blended carrots. Look at that color, like it's the tatashe brightened the color even more. So I'll mix that in right now. Just get it well mixed into the already stir fried onions. So once I'm done mixing it together, I'm going to cover it and allow it to boil for 2 minutes. You can see what it's looking like. I don't have too much oil in this, so you won't see the oil floating on top, but if you use a little more oil than I did, you will see the oil float on top at this point. So I'm going to stir it together once again before I introduce the rest of our ingredients. We're going to start with the spices I showed us earlier in the video. After which I'll be adding the beef stock. Remember, we're not using seasoning cubes for this, but you can definitely use your seasoning cubes in place of this. Okay, yeah. So I'll stir that in and then incorporate it into the sauce as well before we will introduce our oxtail stock. I'll just cover it and let the sauce come to a boil, like let the stock melt into it. Look at what it's looking like. I did this because I want it to come to a boil so I can taste for salt before adding any further salt into this sauce. Remember, my meat stock was already well spiced, and it had pepper and everything. I'm even thinking that the habanero pepper I added is going to make it a lot more spicy than I regularly use. You guys know my story already. So next, after I had tasted for salt, I needed a little bit more, so I'll just add now, and then I will introduce the parboiled rice at this point. A very good trick when you're making jollof rice, even with tomatoes, is to mix in your rice gradually and weigh the sauce. You don't want to have too much sauce and you don't want to have too little sauce as well. Yeah, so balancing it out is the key. So after I stirred in the first part of the rice, I had to add the remaining. Okay, so I'll stir that in as well and we'll proceed. Another very quick secret to achieving a perfect jollof rice is your mixing strategy. You have to mix it very well in a way that every crumb is coated with the sauce. You don't want to have one part white and one part tomatoish or carrotish in this case. Yeah, so once I'm done mixing everything, I rinsed my blender and added a little bit more water. This is just the amount of water I used for this jollof rice. You don't also want to drown the rice in water, remember. Then I introduced about 3 teaspoons of the shrimp spice or the crayfish alternative. That shrimp spice is so richly tasty. Give it a try, please. You would love it. So I'll go back and mix it in very well, and at this point I have my stove at somewhere between 5 and 6, whereas the highest heat on it is 9, so we'll call it medium heat. You don't want to do this on a high heat because we don't have a lot of water. You don't want it to burn before the rice cooks. Okay, so and of course because of that I'll be covering it with this baking sheet. and then covering my pot to retain the moisture, the little moisture inside it as the rice cooks. Okay, after the first 10 minutes, I went in to mix it in again. This is because you want every crumb of the rice in there coated in the rich carrot sauce. So as soon as I'm done mixing it in, I'll cover it one more time to cook for another 6 to 10 minutes. And at this point, you can see that the water in there is almost gone. Yeah, so I'll mix it once again, making sure not to mash the rice. You can see it's done, like almost nothing more. You don't want it mushy. So at this point, I'll just start to garnish. So the yellow capsicum I cut into cubes like that. You can cut yours into long strips or whatever shape that tickles your fancy. So after I mix that in, I'm going to cover it without the baking sheet for an extra 5 minutes for the water to dry out. And at this point, this is exactly what I want to have. This is carrot jollof rice. You don't want it so dry, but at the same time, you don't want it to be like porridge, if you get what I mean. So this consistency is just perfect. And right now, I'm going to garnish with the leafy part of the spring onions like I told us. Mix it together and it will be ready to be served. Meanwhile, let's check our oxtail, and it's perfectly grilled at 180 degrees using the grill function. So this is the fat I talked about on our oxtail stock. Instead of using butter, I figured out I can use a little bit of that to brighten up my rice, just like we do with butter. And the food is ready. So here is the best part of this, tasting this meal. Oh my god, it was so good. I was actually talking to you guys in this video, but while editing I realized that my son's cartoon, his Dave and Eva and all those stuff was played in the background, and that is not good for this video. So guys, it was so worth it. It's something you would want to try. Okay, just give it a try and let me know what you think about it. You can always reach me through a DM on Instagram at the Afrofood Diary or on Facebook at the Afrofood Diary as well. I have a page there. Thank you so much. Let's interact in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to hit the like button for me. It will go a long way. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye.